All right, so T.
T, there's an overview on top of the K, and
Do you take your extendo with you?
oh, I did.
Yeah.
You good?
Topicality, not going for it. They always answer their contradiction arguments at the bottom. First, it's a separate issue. Topicality is the issue of what meets the resolution. The critique comes after they've justified they're even relevant to the topic. There's no contradiction. Second, there's no impact of contradicting. A, there's no advocacy burden. All our arguments are why voting egg is good. They should defend their app. And B, there's no ground loss. We're not saying heads good plus heads bad. We don't force them to contradict. There's no impact, minor inconsistencies. And C, it's not a moving target. We'll advocate one position and the two are making it stable. And third, the critique doesn't link to topicality. We're indicting legal doctrines in theory, not definitions specifically. And they don't have an internal link or like an impact of this. It doesn't justify the permutation because they would still have to defend the affirmative. Even if we make a minor contradiction, that's still way worse than doing something that has nothing to do with the critique. All right, over. In the early 20th century, a new discipline was born. Christopher Langdale proposed to study law scientifically by critiquing units like principles and tests, so scholars could read the body of law like phrenologists read the cranium. The mystery of the brain and thousands of court decisions both provide infinite ground for subjective interpretation. Legal thinkers only know what others say about the law, which is revealed in cross-examination when the best justification for the act of the plan is, well, Justice Stevens said so. Langdale maintained the circular system by imagining thinkers and judges as transcendent subjects, objectively guided by doctrine and principle, conflating study with practice through fiat, ignores the judges of bureaucratic agents controlled by hierarchical orders, not public argument. No one can respond to their demand, but the image of sovereign rationality they endorse makes bureaucratic balance seem necessary and justified. We're doing the alternative now by calling out the illusion of the sovereign subject. Phrenology was discarded when bumps on the head were proven unrelated to the brain. Our winter evidence situates your valid as examination of their truth claims in relation to our social situation. If we debunk their study of law, vote negative. The perm and the framework will be in the 1 and R. Gentleson. Look, this evidence is not responsive. It says that this is arguing for more policy relevance within the actual policy, policy people in the administration. It says that few of them read anything more academic than foreign affairs. This is reasons why they are not listening to anything said in academic debate, and what we do has no influence over them. Additionally, saying that what should be done to fix the law is not a way to become relevant. Taking up a stance prefigures what we think to support our positions in opposition to others. It creates dialogue within an isolated sphere that can't connect with real people to create change. Spivak 04. The stereotype of the public intellectual offer states it's going to use policy, not response to every crisis, but it's not a response. The type of cognitive back legitimates the idea that there's a straight line for doing politics, but the response needs to resonate with the other, contemplate the possibility of complicity. Response prefigures change. We can find our idea of political cognitive control. When we close off response altogether, we end up talking to ourselves or to our clones abroad. You lose support when you stop busting them, and you take away the critical self-convenience of doing good or punishing. Next, they say, still on the generals and evidence. Also, this is a critique of the theory-practice dichotomy. They do more than we do when they say that we should just evaluate whether the plan is a good idea, not whether it actually does anything to advocate it. That is the strict divide between theory and practice. Their generals and evidence is critiquing when you sit, in order to access this evidence, they would have to engage the process of criticism, which examines how doing things in this round doesn't do anything. Now they read the Barrera's evidence. First, we engage the law more, we engage in the sort of study of the law more effectively. It's not enough to just have, no, these are what the doctrines and principles are. You have to know something about how they're related and whether they are even related. If they take advocacy and make us speak to the court as if it's someone who's listening to what we demand and then going to respond in kind, then that means that they're not effectively responding to it. They're training us in an outmoded way that might have worked in the 1800s, but it's no longer relevant. This means that they simply don't access this effectively, and calling for change doesn't convince people. The ability to be persuaded is determined by unconscious beliefs that remain invisible as long as they make depends on supposedly sovereign subject. Winter 90. What matters most is not unconscious willingness to be persuaded by good faith arguments, rather the unconscious structure by its understands an argument is persuasive. As long as participants in dialogue made unself-conscious, they'll be unaware of the ending structure, then the ability of persuasion will be severely limited. Promotes prescriptions, especially they ignore this cognitive level. Once work is done, these first suppose they all to the autonomous subject, imagine capable of persuasion and willingness constantly to consider the perspectives of others. This is a noble vision, one that is fundamentally flawed. Next, the Perez evidence says that nuclear wars are coming real soon. That means that they don't access it in time. Even if we learn lots in college, they don't solve that, and we might say that's good on the case page. The Betts evidence. This is a defense of military studies, and this would be an answer to threat construction. It's not an answer to Schlag. They don't even access this evidence. And my discussion above would still apply. Also, we've got the decision rule when it comes to academia. Making statements of advocacy for some sort of legal change or another is worthless as scholarship. The pages of law reviews are filled with failed projects like the After Rule. The scholar should not mimic the judge, but instead seek out this very subject formation shape what seems true or possible of law. Campus 93. Much legal argument is by its nature of strategic instrument rather than indicates and prove true beliefs. All the inquiries is valid only to the extent that makes pursuit of truth its fundamental goal. Communicate back text aims at ideal speech or the purpose which is established through unforced inquiry, what cannot be called true. It's advocacy, this kind of writing we have its uses. Scholarship is essentially worthless. Advocacy scholarship has many causes. We list the overinstances, legal organized placement of decisions in the Supreme Court, the relative phenomena which law professors feel compelled to pronounce judgment on various questions of social policy, and the unhealthy urge to indulge in power, which is the sort of much Western and Northern life in the modern world. Next, they read this Carlson evidence saying law is inevitable and good. And normativity is inevitable too. First, we're not critiquing normativity. There's being normative means saying I should win this round because I was better. That is not the same thing as saying the Supreme Court should do this. We're talking about why legal prescriptions in normative terms are bad, not why individual normative terms are bad, which means that they don't access this. This also means that they have to be speaking for something for their demands to be real. Even if the law exists, that doesn't mean they effectively interact with it because it's not made up of humanist subjects. It's a gigantic bureaucracy. That's explained in the overview. Next, they say, Carlson, that the contradiction is inevitable and within laws it's inevitable and good. Okay, extend that. That means there's no impact on topicality to the contradiction. And this still means that law doesn't mean anything because it is contradictory. You can find just about anything you want if you study it far enough. It means that there's literally no way that the affirmative means anything because there are different ways to reinterpret precedents and change it, meaning that for example, they could interpret the Eisentrager precedent to become the new controlling precedent, and that would still justify the detention of new detention of enemy combatants. Or the Supreme Court could suddenly decide that Milligan was more important, and then that would suddenly become controlling precedent, and then their case would no longer be solved. All these are reasons why the indeterminacy of legal analysis makes it impossible for them to effectively access their case. Now, they say that we can create freedom by speaking to the law. This evidence is rhetorically powerful, but is totally unwarranted. It says vicarious participation matters, but not why this is true. Even if it's good, they have to show a link between the debate round and the cultural production slog, that Carlson is talking about. Our one evidence indicates this is decided elsewhere, so they can't influence it, and Carlson's only impact is becoming more freebolt. These are terms we criticize. The third one card is critiquing the existential subject. Freedom has been redefined by bureaucratic society. This, of course, makes them docile subjects that are easily controlled. Slog 91. It's argument to independent the laws of self-critical enterprise, but in fact, its meaning is governed by ability to goods are decided upon elsewhere. Every human conduct between self are declared to be self-directing and already freeze mediated and constructed by techno-bureaucratic strategies, all ironically leading to a regime of pervasive sameness. Next, they read the Litowitz evidence. This is okay, so they have more cards why prescriptions are good. Cross-apply my cards why prescriptions are bad. This Litowitz evidence doesn't make any unique warrant there. All of their cards are speaking to a social situation which no longer exists. If there's no liberal humanist subject, then there is no one to make demands on effectively. Now, group the arguments about why we need to evaluate calculations in the war on terror. First, our impact is not calculability. Our impact is discussing how the law comes to regulate our everyday activities. When we speak about the law as if it is necessary to solve every sort of social problem and debate, it normalizes that kind of gaze into our everyday lives. It means that for every problem there is another solution, which is there should be a law. This means that in order to even exist in society, you have to become a function of legalism. This is a very shallow and really limiting way of understanding the world. Next, they're saying that the round is only about responses to terrorism constructs our subjectivity in opposition to the non-human bestial terrorist and traps us within a fixed subject-object dichotomy that creates an evil other. We have to consider the identity of terror and the subject positions it creates to challenge this sort of social control, and this is Yukai Opai. If you do not condemn the terrorist, then you are not human. Clearly, we're in a situation where it's all supposed to prove themselves human in a hurry. The so-called sovereign subject is not the least human. Sovereign integrates these two figures, beast and machine. Anyone's potentially a terrorist. Conversely, we look at the victims of terror. Currently, there's every time avoid discussing this, and this is not the least surprising that powerful shock works materials are equality, but only the face of death and violence. So what is it terrifies us to do? We fear what should truly be shared. The matter demands ceaseless analysis. Once I am regulated as individual life and property subjects and object protection, I am inextricably linked to the biopolitics of anti-terror law. The question how should we be limited from what terror becomes a crucial necessary condition for rethinking the horizon for a critique of terrorism, for liberating ourselves from this framework. This means that it is a precondition to do the alternative, to even understand what terrorism is, because it has been used as an abstraction, which is something that is simply not us. When you define it in those terms, you don't even know what you're fighting. The affirmative is a useless gesture. And this evidence, the only link evidence they have is about why it's bad to collapse the friend-enemy dichotomy. Sorry, we're not critiquing IR, we're critiquing the way you speak to the law, meaning that this literally does not apply. This Reinhardt evidence that they read at the bottom is the impact of that, but they don't access it. We control the internal link to genocide, because in debate we assume we're sovereign subjects making political choices, but this language carries a cost. Legal violence is legitimated by a rationalist argument that makes it a necessity. Debaters become the conduit to translate bureaucracy's total control over life into the image of participatory democracy guided by reason and intellectual. This modernist ethic separates people from others. It's the logic of death camps and hyper-efficient genocide managed with scientific precision, Bauman 95. Modernity is also about fast and efficient killing, scientifically designed and administered genocide. Sporadic explosion of spontaneous hatred would not suffice. Only thoroughly modern instrumentalities make the conduct of operations independent of the feelings of perpetrators could do at the camps, or an invention possible only thanks to commerce of modern day is proud of rationality. Whoever asked the camps what possible must look to that curious and terrifying social contraption to prevent the separation of action and ethics. This means that there is a terminal impact to our critique. Ha! I have back one of these things. I have back.
It's gonna be in the one mark.
going to be in the one and a.
Okay, so your terms of the case analysis during above in the speech was that the court returned to Eisentrager or the court returned to Milligan. So, hold on, I haven't asked a question yet. So your terms of the case argument is that the court can overrule our case. Doesn't that imply the fact that the court does do things?
I mean,
Therefore,
our point is not the court will overrule your case, rather that your way of...
how does the case get turned by your criticism?
For one, it doesn't happen. Talking about it like it will
Okay,
happen makes
sure.
it less
I got
likely to
that.
happen. And second, discussing precedents as if they are controlling and have certain directions is really not how law functions. It is a bureaucratic management system where the precedents are used to justify predetermined goals.
Sure. Now, we argue that those predetermined goals are good. They'll help us catch terrorists, get intelligence. Why you vote nay then? How does the alternative then grasp that? For example, you say IR doesn't apply. What does the alternative do to address the impacts of terrorism?
That's kind of the point, is that addressing the impacts of terrorism by saying the Supreme Court to do something is pretty pointless. We shouldn't be doing that. That is the answer.
So all the enemy combatant cases right now are currently pointless? That's your claim?
In terms of debate, yes, they are. They have nothing to do with what the Supreme Court is actually doing.
Okay, so then what should debate be about?
I mean, there's a lot of things it could be about. Some examples of that would be talking about the kind of assumptions...
In light of this resolution.
In light of this resolution, okay,
In light of Kieran.
In light of Kieran, okay, like, for example, the Ukai evidence I just read connects the conception of
So
sovereignty...
Ukai says anyone is potentially a terrorist, first we all become victims of terror. Therefore, do we fear we truly should be feared? Once I'm the individual life and property, once we're the people's protection, initially enmeshed in the biopolitics and anti-terror law. I mean, our whole 1AC is why this anti-terror law is good. We're giving evidence of this question. So your interpretation debate is just the opposite of our act. I don't see why we can compare the impacts of our case to what you think debate should be.
Congratulations on picking out single words in our card to make sentences. But our point is not that anti-terror law is bad. Our point is that when you
That is Ukai's point. Are you kidding?
When you talk about anti-terror law, you have to know what you're talking about first. If you don't know what a terrorist is, because you don't know what a sovereign individual subject is...
we read evidence that says we shouldn't try to know what a terrorist is, rather than we shouldn't engage in that's Dershowitz argument is that... So now the alternative is a way to understand what terrorism is?
No.
No? How does the alternative relate to terrorism? Is it Ukai? Is it we don't know? Either way, we have links.
I think that the alternative would say that the question of terrorism is not important in this debate round.
It's not important in this debate round?
No, it's not.
Okay.
In fact, it has zero relevance to this debate round because...
Okay. Then why does your Bauman evidence have relevance? Why does the theories of modernity causing genocide have relevance?
Because you are those theories of modernity which cause genocide.
So Ravi and I are the new Hitlers? Are you kidding me?
Our argument is not that you were the new... Oh, okay,
I mean, Ravi might be.
Our point is that when you speak to law as if it is self-regulating and out there, then that is the kind of separation...
So Neil Katyal, the attorney for Hamdan, he is the new Hitler? Lawrence Tribe, is he the new Hitler?
It is a systemic discussion, and yes, maybe he is.